ecofictologists, welcome back to my channel. I hope that you have been following along with this episode of Spells and Specialists, but we're just gonna throw all the introductions at you again anyway. My name is Lovis, and welcome to another installment of Spells and Specialists, where we use magic and stories to teach technical topics and communicate science. And with me today is C.R. Rowanson, the co-founder of Spells and Specialists. Hi, Clark.
Hi.
Do you want to introduce yourself for people who don't know you yet?
Sure. I was like, maybe we should just go to Moiya. She's more important. I am C.R. Rowanson, also known as the Magic Engineer. And I spend all of my time creating tools and content to help storytellers craft and repair magic systems for their stories. And that's what I'm here for. And once again, or I keep saying once again, but still, she's still here. We've trapped her and she hasn't left, is Dr. Moiya McTier from Exolore. And actually, yeah, Moiya, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you, Clark. I'm Dr. Moiya McTier. I'm an astrophysicist, a folklorist, science communicator, world builder, author, podcaster, blah, blah, blah. I hold and wear many hats. But really my shtick is that I love to help people understand the world around them better through a lens of science and storytelling.
Which is why we were so happy to have her as the first person.
Yeah,
she's
perfect.
Yeah, she was huge inspiration for why we wanted to do this series. So
absolutely, you should all check out Exolore because it is fantastic.
Yes,
thank you, friends.
So hopefully you guys have all seen the previous parts of this first episode that is now 4 installments, but we went through all the cool science stuff that Moiya could teach us, and we were all suitably odd. And then we went through our process of finding the seed crystal, which is the idea that sparks all the inspiration for the magic system. And the magic system we built in the third part with Clark on his channel, and we used the magic system blueprint, and it was so good. I have so many notes because the ideas were just flying. So and during that whole process, I was taking a few notes about things that I thought would be really cool in a story. How, now we're coming to this final part where we're wrapping it all together into a narrative. We're doing the narrative shenanigans that we talked about in the last section. And the whole point of what we're doing here is science communication. So this is the packaging that we are giving people to communicate all of the cool things that Moiya has to teach us. So the way that I imagine this going is just, I'll throw some notes at you. Whether they make sense or not, we shall see. But I'll throw some notes at you of things that stood out to me that I think would be really cool in a story as we were talking through the magic system. I won't go through kind of everything we talked about because it's too much, and you should all just go and check out the episode on Clark's channel instead.
At this point, I think you have hours of content just with
hours. You have hours of content. No, that shouldn't scare anybody off. It should be delightful.
It's a good thing.
A good thing. Yeah. So if we're all happy to continue, I'll just yeet some story ideas at you.
Yeet away.
Yeet away. All right then. So the main premise is that everybody has their own little personal star, and that star determines the type of magic you can do. That is a gross simplification of what we talked about for the last hour.
And also the nature of the star tells us everything we need to know about the life cycle of the star, and therefore the life cycle and duration of your magic powers.
Yes, exactly. And so we talked about the merging of stars. If you manage to get somebody else's star, because that is possible, to take somebody's star from them, to merge those two stars, and the new elements that form when those stars merge create new magical powers. So the way I saw that happening, you could write a whole story just about that, right? Because you could write a whole story about somebody needing a specific type of magic for reasons, and then going out and finding someone whose star they can take, maybe striking a deal, maybe striking a little trade, a little bribe. We talked about groups of people that think they can control what kind of magic comes about when someone is born, or like over their formative years when they're children, because this is actually random. The kind of magic that you get, it depends on your magical potential and also some magical potential around you, is what we decided, I think. But there are groups of people, sciences or philosophies that think that they can influence that. They've turned it into a science. That could be very interesting in terms of a plot line. We talked a lot about monsters because monsters have their own little stars, or rather they have the people gone supernova when the stars went supernova and the people turned into monsters, is what we decided, right?
Yeah, because it leaves a black hole inside.
It leaves a black hole, exactly.
Yeah.
And we talked about the kind of I'm trying to use the right words here from the blueprint, but the number of monsters over time, because they're immortal but can be killed, and only the high mass stars will go supernova and become monsters, and all these things. And I just thought that sounds like a mystery, kind of like a thriller mystery to me, with like a scenario where there are just suddenly so many more monsters, and what's happening, or suddenly there are not so many, and what's going on. And then I had a note about, if you can steal someone's star, is there like a Robin Hood character that's stealing all the super powerful stars? Like, what happens when you steal it? Can you give it to people, and all these things? So that's my first page.
We didn't actually,
I'll let you digest.
We didn't actually talk about what happens to the person once you steal their star. I guess I assume they died, but that doesn't have to happen.
Right.
Doesn't have to happen.
I feel like whatever happens when they just burn out should happen. In the very first meeting, we talked about people developing shadows after their stars burn through all of their fuel.
Yeah. So that's what the monsters are. So maybe there's two types of the human.
I think the monsters are separate. The monsters are when you burn so hard and so fast that you go supernova and create a black hole. But if you just naturally run out of your star, then you get the shadow.
So we have the supernovae and we have the shadows, but both of them are somebody who for whatever reason doesn't have a star anymore. And those would be different. I think those would just be different like types of monsters, I think.
And in my head they are monstrous, like not so much the shadows. I think the shadows retain like that kind of humanoid shape in my head. We could talk about that, but the like monsters zombies that have gone supernova, I see them as fairly grotesque in my head.
So the core stuff, the core drive behind any of the story is always going to be the conflict, right? And you said you just wanted to throw these things at us and see what sticks. What really, really stuck with me was kind of the mystery of if suddenly more of these monsters are showing up. And I like the idea of if there are people out there who are doing research on stealing and merging stars. This is just going back. We've been doing a lot of comparisons to His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. Similar to that, there's a research institute where they are grabbing people and they are separating them from their stars. And that's why there's a proliferation of shadows. But there could also be a proliferation of supernova, because even if they're successful at merging it, if they don't understand that doing that actually accelerates it, they may accelerate it to the point where they're like, oh yeah, we built a god of a magic user, and then they go full supernova in like 3 months.
Exactly. And one of the other really things was Moiya said that she thought there would be an industry dedicated to predicting the unpredictable nature of stars as well. So we already have an idea for like an institute, a research institute that's doing all this kind of research. And maybe they pretend to be like, well, we're just trying to predict, because we said that just like stars, the lower mass ones are more unpredictable in terms of like flares and sunspots and stuff, right? And the high mass ones are more predictable
Yeah, can you?
than the
More
lower.
magnetically stable.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was
more
hoping you could
magnet was
walk
it.
through
It was
that.
magnetic field.
I was hoping you could walk through that again, Moya, actually.
Yeah, sure. So one feature of low mass stars is that they are more magnetically active. They throw out more magnetic solar flares. They have more star spots that appear and disappear as they go through their magnetic cycles. You may be familiar with magnetic cycles because our sun has its own 11-year cycle where it gets more magnetically active, creates more sunspots, and then declines in its activity. But the really high mass stars don't have that as much. And then another axis for this is that as stars age, they tend to get less magnetically active.
And like I did not know that our sun had a whole cycle. So even at the very end,
Yeah.
I'm learning cool stuff. And I have a question that I didn't ask before is what actually are star spots? Is that kind of like a depression and suppression of the magnetic field, or because a flare is it like pushing out, right?
Yeah. Well, okay. So these are related. A star spot is actually an area of heightened magnetic activity. It's a place where all of the magnetic field lines are being active in that one spot, which basically makes the star look darker because it has cooled down, because it has contracted with all of this magnetic activity happening. And then the flare is the energetic consequence of magnetic field lines combining in certain ways or getting into certain configurations with each other.
So it sounds like we are all on board for some kind of research institute.
Yes.
I like it.
That
I
is
like the
causing
Research
problems.
Institute.
I also really like the Research Institute. May I add in like because you know how in stories you can have like the larger arching story, but there might also be a smaller personal story with one of the main characters. So the fact that you can spend a lot of time with someone and maybe your star starts to absorb some properties of their star makes me think of a character in this world who suspects that their partner might be having an affair because their partner's star is acting different.
I like it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's one of the researchers.
Yeah, or like the detective who's trying to figure out what this institute is doing is having like their partner is having an affair with one of the researchers, for example. Yeah
I like it. I'm ready.
That would be really fun. And that's something we didn't talk about at all, is whether the visible nature of your star shifts and changes with either aspects of emotion, states of health, or something like that. Like there could be all kind of things where like your star is part of an either psychoanalysis or physical analysis or all of the above. But I really like that, where somebody is watching them, they're like, their star is changing and I am concerned. It could even be there might be a couple characters that are dealing with that, where one, like at first they think it's just an affair, but then they're like, wait, I think their star is bigger. And it turns out they're one of the people who has had a star merged in, and that that would be really cool. I really like that.
This makes me think that there might also be like another secret industry. There are so many like seedy underground industries in this world, of people trying to figure out a way to hide your star.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So
here we go.
So the main, and this is all tons and tons of world building goodness that is going to be thrown in there. And they don't even have to be like secret organizations. This happens, unfortunately, a ton in our world, where there are organizations that on paper are completely above board, and then they're just doing things without reporting it, or they're just straight up lying about it, right? They're saying, oh yeah, we are totally disposing those things safely.
Definitely.
But if that is our main conflict, is these monsters showing up that's leading into the secret of what these people are doing, I kind of wanted to bring it back to the science communication, because we've already got that alone. I doubt this is going to be a short episode because it's us, but that alone kind of gets us there, because in order for the characters to understand what is happening, They have to develop an understanding of the magic and the nature of these stars to a level that we've already talked about. They have to learn all of that in order to actually solve this mystery. At which point,
Yeah,
boom, science communicated, and there can just be a thing in the
boom.
afterward where Moya could say, this is all based on how stars actually work.
Using this research institute is fairly easy to wrap all of those things together. I mean, you have your characters, you probably have, I'm imagining like a dual point of view kind of thing. You have the detective and you have a researcher, right?
Yeah.
And each of them is probably having their own issues. I'm off now. So because this research institute, I also have a note here because children up until puberty, they're still like forming their stars, and then puberty is this fusion moment where the star forms and solidifies and everything is decided. But before that, depending on whether they're going to be a low mass star or a high mass star, they could be more or less dangerous, right? And we have like a list of these magical effects. We had, what did we have? Heat, we had light, we had illusion, and then at the fusion point was transformative magic. What else did we have? Growth
And
life.
Yeah. Okay, so we had those kinds of things, and if you have a very powerful child that's unpredictable, that could be more or less dangerous. And so I kind of assume that this research institute is also looking at them and trying to, trying to predict what's happening, trying to harness that kind of power.
So first off, Moya, don't let us run roughshod over you, because we just
please,
excited about
please jump in.
Okay.
I think I really do like that, as those being our main two point of view characters. Is one, we have a researcher who could be a researcher because they had a child where with their specialty they instantly knew they're high mass. Like that's something you talked about last time, Moya, was like, what if you're a low mass parent to a high mass star child, and like, I don't know what to do. That could be the nature of their research. I almost said her, doesn't have to be her, could be a dad that is just as concerned. I like that as a narrative. The other one, if we wanted to subvert it, it's very natural to put in a detective as part of a mystery, but I think we could also do somebody who is like a forest warden, a game preserver, even a bounty hunter or monster hunter. They make their living off of doing this. And they're like, okay, business is good, but business is a little too good, and I'm growing concerned.
Well, this was going to be my follow-up question. Why are monsters a problem? Monsters have to, like, why would we care if there are suddenly more? Go, Moya, go.
Moya has an idea.
I do have an idea. Black holes don't suck stuff in, but they do consume everything within their reach. So if you have all of these black hole monsters that are just like running free, they're going to be eating forests. They're going to be eating houses if they get into urban areas. Like they're just consuming everything. They're like insatiable appetites.
And maybe that's the difference between the black holes and the shadows, is the shadows are just kind of a drain on magic in general, because they're a sort of a vacuum, an absence that has been ripped away. But the black holes are actually pulling away parts of reality. Like they're actually destroying mass, and killing them could be a really important thing, because when you do that, it releases everything that was pent up inside them back into the world
in the form of energy, not necessarily the matter that they consumed.
And
then like this research institute might be my partner often tells me this story about something called the cobra effect. So I don't remember exactly when it was, but basically there was a cobra problem in India. And so the government made this rule that they would pay people to bring in cobras, but that backfired because people started farming cobras to bring in. So if you can kill one of these black hole monsters and that generates a lot of energy, research requires a lot of energy. So maybe they're like starting to make these monsters so that they can kill them to harvest their energy.
But to do that, they have to kill people.
Yes.
Or they have to
Yeah.
like drive, like get people to the point where they're about to go supernova.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That is good. I like
It
that.
is good. It is good.
It's
So-
cyclical, which is nice because stars are cyclical.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah,
okay.
I mean, with the monsters, I was also going along those lines of, well, they're black holes, they're gonna suck things in. Like, I wondered if they were like coming into the town like looking for a star because they don't have one anymore, and so there are these things that are like sucking in other people's like magic and stuff. But I like your idea
Aw.
much better.
Or even going after magical monsters and like finding
Yeah.
sources of high density. Like
Yeah.
the shadows are kind of magical vampires at that point.
Mm.
And then the supernova or the black holes are completely on their own level.
Yeah.
Because I also picture them getting bigger and stronger the more they consume stuff.
Oh yeah.
And more monstrous. Oh, they could just be like these horrifying chimeras of everything they have absorbed.
Yes.
I'm just imagining the that Studio Ghibli Spirited Away,
No
faceless
face.
or no face, yeah, where he just turns into this giant creature with like a
Yeah.
mouth and the
Yeah.
stomach.
Yes.
I should ask. I'm sorry. I immediately jumped into coaching mode. Because I do writing coaching and I help people sort out their stories, not just their magic stuff. So we have the main conflict, which is both this mystery and dealing with the organization. So we know the resolution is, I guess the question there is, do we want the resolution to be, this would depend on whether you wanted to do a series or a single book. Is the resolution the exposure of the secret or actually destroying the facility's capability to do this?
It would probably depend on whether there was an even more nefarious like aspect to the research, because right now it's research for research's sake. Like, yes, they're killing people and yes, they're breeding monsters, but what are they trying to achieve?
Right.
Or what are they doing it for? I think that would be the next question.
Okay.
Or like, because you said they're researching how to merge stars, and by merging stars you come up with new magic. So what kind of magic are they trying to come up with?
Okay.
TBH, I'm picturing this as like like a Bezos Musk type person who has all the money and resources in the world and wants to also have all of like be the most powerful magic haver. So is using their resources to figure out how to become that.
Yeah, this could easily be a series, and I think the resolution of book 1 would work very well if it was something along the lines of they disrupt the functionality of that facility, potentially destroy a bunch of the notes, but they cut off the ability to continue this research in that spot.
And free all the people.
Yeah, and we already have the hook, which is the other end where monsters are on the rise and one person feels there's something wrong with their spouse and is trying to find ways to keep their child safe, right?
Yeah.
So the next things we really want to worry about, it's more or less the inciting incident. That is what draws them in. So we have a stable life where the person is researching and you have the person who is hunting monsters. They're each going to have their own little plot turn. So what is it that draws them into this larger plot?
If it is a forest warden who could also be a bounty hunter, but not like doesn't have to be, as a forest warden, I would just be concerned that all of a sudden like so many of my trees are gone. Like why are these big clearings happening or forming in the woods?
Yeah, I think even a combination of those where this would be a forest warden in a more literal sense, where they're there to like ward and guard nature. So combination of conservationist and monster hunter. It could be that like at the very beginning they're doing their job and they manage to deal with a black hole creature.
Yeah, maybe one of the smaller ones that isn't as big and strong yet.
And then the turning point could be where he finds evidence of a new one. Either he sees it or he finds the evidence of his passage, and that could instantly lead him in where he's like, wait. Two?
Mm.
There's never two in the same area and never this close together. Like they're spread out over years usually because they often clash and kill each other and combine into a single one. So having two in the same place, something is wrong.
Or maybe if they're territorial like that, maybe he finds one that's been killed by another one.
Well, I
And he
imagine if they
finds
did
the-
that, they would probably merge though, right?
Yeah, black holes merge.
Yeah.
So
But
it would probably eat one. Like if a black hole killed another black hole, it would eat it and absorb all of its
yeah.
size and power.
Okay.
Why would it take so long for you to see another one? Because you can talk about geographical rarity, but also
okay.
temporal rarity. You know, like if
Mhm.
they're immortal and there are more of these monsters over time, why don't you see more of them? Well, if they sleep a lot, then there you go.
Well,
And black holes, some are more active than others, so that checks out science wise. The dormant ones can be called black holes, and then the active ones, we call them quasars or blazars, depending on how bright they are.
oh, okay. Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that.
So he finds evidence of a quasar instead of just a black hole, where it's like there's
Mhm.
usually black holes, but takes a long. Yeah. Okay. Well, that would make a lot of sense. If somebody goes supernova, it could be a long time for the black hole to build up enough presence to be noticeable.
Yeah.
So it's not hibernation, but they aren't as damaging, and they're harder to track.
They are not yet an active galactic nucleus.
Right. That.
That.
So for the researcher, they think something is wrong with their significant other's star, and they start getting suspicious about infidelity.
Yeah. And maybe then they go and try and figure out what their spouse is actually working on, and then stumble across some of these more in the back room kind of research.
At the risk of dipping very close to his dark materials, it could be that the spouse, who may or may not be cheating, is working on a research project to maybe catch the stars when a person dies. But instead of doing it ethically, like going through the whole IRB process and just waiting for terminally ill patients to die, they are actively killing people to steal their stars.
And we could make it so the spouse isn't a bad person. They could be focused on just like theoretical stuff of catching stars, and they don't realize that that's what's happening. They don't realize that their theoretical research is being actively used.
Yeah.
When they come back and be like,
Oh,
well,
that's
here's our latest
I like that.
findings, and they just assume they're working at a morgue or something, and it's like, oh, okay, well, we'll factor that in.
They also would not be killing kids because kids don't have their full magic yet. So
Right.
this isn't close to his dark materials.
Right. Maybe when they like are in the facility and they discover that because of what they've been uncovering, their spouse is now on the chopping block. To keep the secret, they're like, well, we're going to get use out of you one way or another.
It's one hell of a retirement plan.
The other thing that I see would be they end up working together. They've crossed paths enough that they're like, hey, this is related, and you have information I need, and I have information or skills that you need.
Yeah. Maybe the forest warden has kind of figured out that it's to do with the research facility, and they come to see the research character, and he's like, we need to talk.
So there are three characters now. Yeah, so there's the warden, there's the child researcher, and the death catcher researcher, who is the child researcher's partner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the main POVs though would probably be the warden and the researcher.
Yeah. Otherwise otherwise the reader would probably know too much if we put the death catcher in there.
Yeah. I really like these two roles because their information alone is incomplete. It's not until they work together, because the warden has the information about how the shadows, black holes, and quasars are formed. The researcher has the information about how the stars work. So it's not until they combine that they piece that together and realize, oh no, this is bad. The understanding that the spouse is on the chopping block and they are in a facility full of shadows.
Ooh.
And like that's that's the dark moment. That is the oh shit moment that they have to work their way out of to the resolution. I really like this story.
Yay.
Do you think there's scope in there to communicate everything you wanted to communicate about stars and star formation and things, Moiya?
Yeah, I think so. I think you were right when you said that having this research institute is a really great device for getting all of the science communication in there. Because to understand the institute, you have to understand the research they're doing, which means you have to understand the science that we use to base this whole world and magic system on. So yeah, I think we nailed it.
Excellent. So we've got a mystery novel that's also, we could turn it into a thriller if we wanted to, but we've definitely got the mystery. And we've got two main points of view. One is dealing with the monsters, one is dealing with the spouse and the research, and then they come together to share information and realize, oh crap.
Oh crap.
They're doing something dangerous.
Oh, that's so good.
It is good. It is good. I like it. I like it.
Well, it sounds like we have been successful.
It does sound like we've been successful. Actually, we've been far more successful than I expected. I thought we would have a more of a vague, kind of nebulous idea of what the story would be like, but no, we've got an outline. I did not think we'd have an outline in a half hour, but we do.
This is almost something that you could pitch to an agent, honestly.
Although I'm talking like I'm going to write this, but I have no plans of writing this. I was going to leave this up to the viewers watching. If you've been inspired by what we've come up with today, or if you have better ideas, then you should leave them down in the comments below, or even take it a step further and just write the thing. And definitely, if you do that, good God, share it with us. We want to know about it.
Yeah.
Definitely get in touch. So yeah, I think we leave everyone on that bit of inspiration today, that outline that they can now go run free and do with what they will.
Yay.
I think. So Moiya, why don't you tell us where everyone can find you and everything that you're doing and all of your projects?
You can find me on Twitter at GoAstroMo. You can find all of my various projects on my website, moiamctier.com. And those various projects are my podcast, Exolore, EXOLORE, all about fictional world building based on science and facts. I wrote a book called The Milky Way, an autobiography of our galaxy, coming out in August of 2022. It's about the history and evolution of the Milky Way, but told from its perspective. I totally loved writing it, and I hope that you would love reading it. And I host a show about mythology from around the world called Fate and Fabled on PBS Digital Studios. So you can find that if you're interested in learning about global myths.
Okay, well, yes. Thank you so much for joining us today, and for this whole episode. It's turned into a massive thing, and we love it because I had so much fun. I hope you had so much fun.
So much fun. This is great. Thank you for putting this together.
Excellent. And of course, thank you to Clark for joining me and co-hosting and everything. Make sure, all you lovely viewers, to subscribe to The Magic Engineer, and go make sure you check out all the previous episodes, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I post every Wednesday all about reading and writing ecofiction and how it can be used as a science communication tool. And that is all from us today. So yeah, we will see you next month. Or 2 months.
Eventually.
Eventually. We'll see you eventually.